Welcome to the BumbleKast. I'm your host, Ian Flynn, the Bumble King, and joining me as always is my Bumble co-host, Kyle, JCRB Krause.
Hello. Hello. We're here forever. It's true. We are always here, Ian. We never leave.
Toiling away in the Bumble caves.
As soon as the last episode ends, we are put in cryo sleep for the next couple days until we are needed once again, and here we are.
Here we are indeed. We have tons of questions to answer from our patrons over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members.
Yes, we do. We have many. And we're starting off with this one from Mixager17. You think Eggman's ever gotten bored and thought about going all in on Exterminator-themed booby traps one time? If nothing else, because either Sonic's potential indignant rage at being treated like a normal rodent could throw him off, or because the sheer novelty of seeing Sonic stuck face down in a glue trap and repeatedly getting whacked with a giant fly swatter would be completely hilarious and worth whatever he would do to him when he escapes.
I could see classic Eggman doing that. I could see Boom Eggman doing that more than anything else.
I suppose.
Although
Boom Eggman likes Sonic,
Boom Eggman,
so
yeah, I can see Boom Eggman setting up the glue trap and then falling in it himself.
Well, yeah, that's the important part.
Say, boss, why are we using a glue trap? Isn't that humane? Well, I don't want to kill him. I just want to embarrass him a little bit.
I don't think the glue trap is actually very humane. It basically means they starve to death.
Well, fair enough.
I mean, say what you will about normal mouse traps. At least they're quick, usually. Here's one from Nondal. Hypothetically, if Premium Chaos Cola was an alcoholic beverage, would it be a rum, a whiskey, or a pre-mixed cocktail? I have no idea.
Coke is a thing, right? So a rum?
I have no idea what the difference is, honestly. I'm sorry. We don't drink. We're very boring, so we couldn't tell you. If that's what, if you have ideas about this, put them in the comments below. Here's a question from Puppy the Scholar. Do you think that in private, Julie Sue mourned the losses of Simon and Florinka, given that she was living with them for quite a while by this point, and they had become her surrogate parents? How do you think she felt about them and their sudden absence?
It has been a while since I've had to tackle that bit of canon, lore, history, minutia, whatever. Because did she really have a lot of time with them? I mean, this is after she's reunited, because all the previous experience she had with them was mind wiped. So I know the present day time scale is a bit of a sliding time scale, but I don't think she got a ton of time with them. And nevertheless, I think it would still be kind of weird for her. It would be difficult for her to contextualize who they were in her life and the life that she had stolen from her. So, insofar as two people who, showed her affection with no strings attached, while that would be kind of difficult for her to accept and deal with in its own right, the loss of that, I think, would bother her a bit, sure.
Mm-hmm. All right, here's one from Rockamillion. You guys discussed the Worf effect when I questioned Blaze's portrayal in Archie Sonic. I found out what it is, and I have to say that I absolutely hate the concept. I suppose it makes a little more sense to do it with an already established character that's been around for a long time, like Sonic, but to do it with Blaze, who had just debuted at the time, makes zero sense. Blaze is meant to be a powerful, badass hero, and you introduce her by having her suffer humiliation after humiliation. That's not how you introduce a badass character. With all due respect, that's just bad writing, plain and simple. Blaze should have stomped Rouge, the SWAT bots, and Captain Metal's minions. You failed, Ian. Now I'm going to get back at you by sending long, annoying questions to the BumbleKast at the end of time. Revenge is a dish best served wordy. Also, death to the Worf effect.
Okay.
I think they were getting a little. I think they were joking at the end there.
I know.
Yes.
I mean, I could be pithy and point out that I only wrote one out of those three examples.
Yeah, you did.
But, or that the Worf effect isn't like an actual standard of practice. It's kind of a general term people use to lampoon the trope, but
yes,
that would be petty of me, especially to broadcast it on air.
Oh, No, of course not. Take it all personally, Ian. Take it all personally.
No, never. I certainly also wouldn't remember it, and fester over it, and dwell on it.
No, of course not. Never would. Scourge time is here with the question. Scourge uses the supercharged warp ring and ends up in the Duke Nukem video game. How would an adventure with Duke and Scourge go? Will they say the catchphrase, "Hail to the king, baby"?
I'm not super familiar with Duke's lore, but from my understanding, he is a heroic individual. Like, the game itself is shameless, but he himself will fight for the protection of mankind, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
He's just a bit of a hedonist.
But
when the world is literally throwing itself at your feet, who can blame him?
I mean, yeah, that's literally what is happening. I think Duke lives the life Scourge wishes he could.
So, I don't know, maybe initially Scourge is all for, we're fighting the power. All right, let's do it. We're, living unapologetically. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah,
and then
Duke just spends most of his time fighting aliens, so.
And then once Duke kind of figures out that, I'm not even going to try it. Never mind. That Scourge is just as bad as the guys he's shooting. Well, little green hedgehog better start running.
I wish I could do a Duke voice. I wish I could. I can't, but gotta call up LGR.
And he's here to shoot hedgehogs and chew bubblegum, and he's all out of bubblegum.
Yeah, pretty much. Time for a shrink ray on that hedgehog. That hedgehog is a funny alien. That might be... It might not get along because he would just see Scourge as a funny alien and shoot him on sight. But
maybe.
I don't know. Here's one from Scurvy Pirate Dog. So the current timeline is that Sonic CD takes place after Sonic 1, thus before Sonic 2 and Sonic 3 and Knuckles, thus meaning that Metal Sonic is the first robotic Sonic duplicate that Sonic fought. But I was looking at some concept art for Scrapnik Island, and this suggests that Mecha Mark II was a prototype to Metal, as it mentions Metal had improved on some features Mecha had. This, of course, made me confused, but then I thought, since Sonic CD includes time travel, including a bad future / good future, is it possible that while Sonic continues from Sonic 1, the Eggman and Metal Sonic that Sonic faces against in this game are from the future after Sonic 3 and Knuckles?
No. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure those design sheets were done before Sonic Origins came out, and that sequence of games was hammered home. And two, just because Metal Sonic was deployed first doesn't mean he was used first. Metal Sonic got stomped on Little Planet, so what is Eggman going to do as a backup? Well, pull from their reserves.
Mm-hmm. Try and figure out how to get this one to do what he wants it to do. And here's one from somebody. Would Sonic Rush Adventure, and just all the story and lore around Blaze still have worked if the Soul Dimension was instead just the Soul Kingdom and was simply an archipelago located on the same planet as Sonic, just maybe on the other side or something?
I think you would retain 99% of the content, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
The whole interdimensional thing really didn't add a lot overall. It certainly upped the stakes for the finale. Our worlds are going to collide and go boom, but that's done now and has never really arisen since. Jeweled Scepter gets brought in, and it's not so much the two worlds angle, is that it's an extremely powerful magical MacGuffin. You could do that with anything. We've seen that 100 times. So it would lose a little bit of poignancy in Sonic Rush where, Sonic and Blaze have to say goodbye to each other, with a lingering question of will they ever see each other again. But Sonic Rush also ends with Blaze having embraced the power of the Soul Emeralds and thus can command their power better and visit Sonic's world. So not really that big of a deal.
No. Yeah, he could have figured out something else. I mean, you could still have the Soul Emeralds. They just teleport Blaze to the other side of the planet instead of to another dimension. It's like, All right.
Yeah, and it's not like it adds anything particular to her character. Blaze is cool because she has incredible power and title, but she doesn't let that get to her head. You know, her character is what's interesting, not that she's from another dimension. So, I don't know. It is what it is.
Yeah. All right. And our last question before we take a break is from Steph Cube. I've seen how some people think Sonic and others are out of character in Sonic X, but I was wondering, since this anime was made in Japan and supervised by Sonic Team themselves, and many of the Japanese writers of the games also wrote many chapters of the anime, wouldn't it be logical to think that the representation of the characters in the anime is the closest thing to that vision that Japan's Sonic Team has of them? I'm not saying it's perfect, but it makes sense if you think about it. What's your opinion on this?
I think it's reasonable to think that of the series at the time.
Yeah.
But Sonic X and that era of Sonic are long behind us, and things have changed since then.
It's
so
been almost 20 years.
No, I wasn't involved with any of that material, so I can't say. I think it's a reasonable assumption, but it also has to be taken in the context of the time period. And it has passed, and now we have what we have today.
Indeed. And speaking of time periods that have passed, well, the half of this BumbleKast. So let's take a quick break and then come back with more BumbleKast. We're back. We got a question from Sterling. Has the lore team considered that the power-up Ancient Light in Sonic Adventure and other titles, which allow Sonic to access his high-speed movements for attacks, would be related to the Ancient's hidden techniques? I think it would be a neat connection. Also, could we please see some of these game techniques added to the IDW comic with a yellow thumbnail hinting toward the reference?
I don't want to discuss what's on the docket for the lore team because that's business talk. That's for us to work on, and nothing is truly ever decided until the product is out there. So I don't want to pull back the curtain on that kind of stuff. As for upgrades and techniques and their placement in gameplay or story elements, I think is definitely a discussion to be had, but that's not something that I'm going to be doing here.
Mm. All right, here's one from Superior Pizza. Something I've noticed from the Sonic series is how many characters were created to rival Sonic and act as either an antithesis or an exaggeration of his character. After connecting a few dots, this made me realize something. Sonic himself is this archetype. He was created to rival Mario, but failed in the end, and then despite all that happened between them, Mario befriended him. How would Sonic react to this meta information? That's just like his many rivals, he himself was created for the purpose of someone else's downfall, and everything that makes him who he is was just to be a contrast and counter to someone else, only for all of it to fail and be pacified into a friendship.
I hate this take, but you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Like I'm going through this bit by bit going, no, well,
yeah,
hmm,
yeah,
hmm,
yeah,
hmm,
yeah,
hmm,
yeah.
If Sonic were to be included into this meta-contextual insight, I think he might go through the same stages of grief here, anger, denial, and all that, and then kind of come away with it going, he is who he is. You know, he made peace with Mario, so why dwell on the past or anything else? They go on adventures and they're cool, and just kind of leave it at that.
They go on a Superstar Sonic Mario Wonder Adventure. I'm ready. Let's make it happen.
I mean, if Mario can team up with the frickin' Rabbids.
All right, here's a question from TH. I hate to say this, but the female representation in the main Sonic games is very bad. Amy is pretty much the only girl Sonic interacts with. The only other girl he has an equal relationship with is Blaze, but she's stuck in another dimension. Rouge isn't really his friend, and Cream is more of a little sister to him than an equal. So my question to both of you is, if you could pick just one heroine from the comics to become the much-needed fifth female member of Sonic's team, tell me why it would be Tangle. Just kidding. Tell me who you would choose.
No, it would be Tangle. That's what she was designed to do.
I mean, I'd choose Styx because that happened once. That's the case in one universe.
Styx would be fun too.
Yes.
I mean, Whisper would
But
be
Tangle
neat as well. But
Tangle would also, Tangle also works.
Tangle was specifically designed to be,
Yes.
a sporty adventurer. Just keep it simple.
Yeah.
Someone to, Sonic shows up and says, "Hey, want to go bust some robots and have fun?" And she says, "Do I?" And they do. Just
yeah.
That's exactly what she was there for.
Yeah. If Archie Sonic were on the table, I'd say maybe Sally would also be a fun option.
Sure.
Yeah, but
Sally or Bunny.
Yeah. God, Bunny would be really fun. Just thinking about it. Good stuff. Here's one from the Might of Gabra. Is it okay to use material, magazines, guides, manuals, encyclopedias, website, etc. and et al., obviously supported by Sega/Sonic Team or some official source, for knowledge on Sonic and the worldview, so long as they don't contradict the games?
If you want, your mileage may vary, and keep in mind what was accepted back in the 90s or the early aughts, or even the early 10s, isn't necessarily representative of what the brand is now.
Or even just a few years ago, if you look at the encyclopedia with some of the changes that have been made since then and other things like that. So, yeah. Here's a question from Thievius. In Cyberpunk 2077, you play as V, a character that stole a biochip containing the digital consciousness of rockstar-turned-terrorist Johnny Silverhand. They put the biochip in their head, and now they see and can interact with Johnny, eventually developing a friendly relationship. Throughout the game, the biochip starts to overwrite V's DNA to make their body suitable for Johnny's consciousness, and in turn, starts killing V. At the end of the game, the two are posed with a choice. V can either allow Johnny full control of the body and V's consciousness disappears into the internet, or Johnny disappears and V stays, but only has a few months to live since their body isn't theirs anymore. My question is, what would Sonic do if he were in V's shoes?
I think he would opt to stay himself, even if it was for a brief while. I don't think he would allow himself to not be him.
Mm-hmm. I think that makes the most sense to me. It is an interesting thought, though. Like, how would Sonic think in the more either way he's going to die? I mean, I guess we did see a little bit of that in Frontiers, because he seemed to just drive himself to his end, regardless of the consequences. So, yeah. Here's a question from Tick Tick. One thing I hear fans say is that Sonic Team ignores everything brought up by the West. For example, some say that doesn't happen in the Japanese script of Sonic Frontiers. I've seen clips of Sonic's characterization being different in English and Japanese from as recently as Colors, which admittedly isn't very recent, but then I see things like Sega mandating that only male hedgehogs can go super, while Kishimoto says such a mandate doesn't exist and they can do whatever they want. Then, of course, there's the time you brought up that Murder of Son of the Hedgehog isn't really a game here on the BumbleKast. So the question is, how valid are things like the comics and the games and content produced by the Western branch when it hardly seems to be acknowledged or built upon by the Japanese side of things? Are fans who think that something has to come from SOJ valid in their interpretation, or are they misinformed?
This is an incredibly sticky topic, and one I don't feel like I should weigh in on in a public space. One, because I'm not directly involved with either branch's offices directly. I telecommute, so I am not privy to a lot of the inner talking or thinking. I'm freelance, so I do not have the most informed opinion on that, and I just generally don't think I should be weighing in on it, especially considering how some reactions to far less volatile topics have been here on the BumbleKast. So I shall abstain from that. What I will say, though, is what we are doing right now has not had time to bear fruit. Sonic Frontiers, as of this recording, is still being wrapped up. We've only had one major platform game since present workings have come about. Sonic Prime isn't even finished yet. So it's really hard to say, they're not acknowledging any kind of Western material when we've barely begun to get this era of Sonic up and rolling. Come back to me in 10 years or so, and we can reassess. But for right now, I'd say, don't worry about the inner machinations. Just enjoy Sonic for what it is.
Yeah, pretty much. Here's one from Windstar Osprey. We've talked about the mandates for creating characters for the comic, but what about Wisps and Wispins? What kind of rules do they have? For example, no creating new Wisp types. There can be only one type of Wispon per Wisp type. Cube Wispons must also be hammers, or Spike Wispons can only be miniguns, and not something like a laser chainsaw sword. All Wisps must look the same, no Wisps with unique traits, etc.
I honestly don't know, because we haven't tested those boundaries. The biggest test was the variable Wispon, which I wasn't sure would get approved, and they embraced that wholeheartedly.
Good.
They added ideas to it. It's like, ooh, okay. So, I mean, that's fine. And I personally am not chomping at the bit to add a new Wisp type just because we have so many of them. We have a bushel, a whole rainbow of them. So if you can't figure out something to do with any of those, then maybe go back and think about your approach again. I don't know. I'm pretty content with what we have so far. Well, no, you know what? I'm already wrong on that, because Adam Bryce Thomas came up with a new Wispon, which was Lanolin's Bell.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
And again, I don't see any need for a new Wisp because we have so many of them that do so many things. But if, the moment struck and we wanted to pitch something, I'm sure we could. I just don't know if they'd approve or not. I don't know.
Well, pitch the laser chainsaw sword and find out. Because I'd be down. I'm down for the laser chainsaw sword. That sounds cool as heck. And our last question on this episode is from Xeno Mama Robotnik. Boy, that's terrifying. It's a terrifying thought. Xenomorphs versus the Galactic Empire. Aliens versus Star Wars. Vader and Palpatine versus a Xenomorph hive. Basically, how would you approach a crossover?
You saw that artwork too, I take it. I'm sure there's more than one piece out there, but there was one particular piece of Vader facing down the Xenomorph Queen. It was like, oh my god, this is gorgeous.
Cool.
I mean, I feel like you shouldn't really try to reinvent the wheel on this one. A galactic survey, an Imperial survey team goes to a planet looking for, rebel scum, new colony, something or other. They come across the hive and the eggs. A bunch of stormtroopers get face hugged. Another team is sent in to find out what happens. Survive just long enough to send back a message going, no, help. So Palpatine detects, a great disturbance in the Force and sends Vader in to solve this problem. Send Vader in with a few, maybe some Inquisitors, maybe some high-ranking stormtroopers, just so that we have somebody to be, these guys are so cool. They're getting 8. And, slow dawning horror as they're picked off one by one in brutal and terrible ways. And then let Vader go ham on them. I mean, the lightsaber's going to cut through them like butter. He can force, throw, choke, crush, smash, fling any and all of them. You have the added peril of the acid blood, which could pose a small problem, but with him having to live through a portable ventilator. But, all he needs to do is get burned once, have flashbacks of being caught on fire and going, nope, that ain't happening again. So now you got Vader force tearing the head off of Xenomorph and throwing the blood at anything else and burning it away. And then just have a big old kaiju fight with the Queen. Throwing rocks, cutting down stalagmites, causing cave-ins. She's swatting him with that big old dino tail, knocking him through things. Facehugger trying to claw its way through his mask, and he just crushes it in his palm. You could have all sorts of fun, visceral horror violence.
That's good.
And then for the ending, either A, he's under orders to bring back anything that could be of use to the Empire. And being the good little Sith boy that he is, he does bring an egg back with this, threatened stinger of, how is this going to go bad in the sequel? Or he has a moment where he kind of stands up for himself, realizes that no, this is a horror that the galaxy should not endure, and just like smushes the last egg and cuts it off there. You can still have the sequel hook saying, there were signs of a colony ship that crashed. These eggs originated from somewhere else, if you really want to. But, have it with a definitive enough end, I guess.
Yeah, but Jedi xenomorphs, or Sith xenomorphs, whichever.
You got to save something for the sequel, man.
I know. I'm just saying. Yeah, exactly. I'm just saying.
Maybe that's what happened to Darth Maul's legs. Facehugger found the bottom half and put an egg in it.
Oh, dear. Oh, God. Oh, oh boy. Oh, boy.
Now I'm envisioning some kind of like Grievous-esque xenomorph.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of just detach and I'll open up a blade, and then its tail turns into a fifth lightsaber.
Yeah,
because why not?
Exactly. That's freaking cool. I'm trying to think of xenomorphs with force powers, and that's terrifying in and of itself.
Or go the opposite direction and shoot. What were those lizards called in the original Zahn trilogy? The ones that could create like absences of the force around them.
I don't remember.
What were they called? Anyway, maybe make the xenomorphs like super sleek, force resistant. Like it just kind of, the will of the force kind of just rolls off their bodies or something.
Wow. That would be wild. Well, on that thought to end out this episode of the BumbleKast. We're done.
Now what? Dark Horse, I'm sure you could set this up for me. Give me a call. Anyway, thanks to all our patrons over at patreon.com/BumbleKast, Ko-fi.com/BumbleKast, and our YouTube members for supporting our show and all of our nonsense. Be good to yourselves, be good to each other, and we will see you next time on the BumbleKast.
Yes. See you next time for more nonsense. The nonsense never ends. So the current timeline is that Sonic CD takes place after
Take two.
Sorry. You've been listening to the BumbleKast, a co-production of Bumble King Comics and the KNGI Network. Original theme music composed by Ken Coda Snyder. Remixed intro by T-Lopes. Find out more information, along with podcast feeder links, MP3 downloads, and more at bumbleking.com and kngi.org.
Quick chat. What's the Sonic show that usually happens down in Georgia?
The Sonic show. I don't know. Sonic.
Is it Fan Jam?
Lost. I don't know. Georgia. Adventures of.
No, not get together, convention, gathering.
Yes. A con. Sonic the Gathering. Sonic Georgia Adventure. Nobody knows. Georgia Adventure 2.
Nah, it wasn't ages. The point is, we were no.
You killed Aaliyah. Look what you've done. Georgia heroes.
Point is, we were all in the car with Mike Pollock going to dinner. And we were talking about how great it would be if you could get a custom GPS voice as Eggman.
Yeah.
It's just, in character. So he would berate you whenever you take a wrong turn. And then just out of nowhere from the backseat, he yells in character, "Turn left!" And we just freaking died. It was hilarious. Sonic and Sega Fan Jam. Maybe that was it. It's been years.
Sonic and Sega Fan Jam Remix. Is that supposed to be like happening this year? Looks like last year.
It was annual.
It's on Kickstarter.
COVID.
Huh. Yeah. I mean, nothing's annual after COVID. There's at least 1 year where things didn't happen.
Yeah.
Well, for the most part.